And with that, my mother and my aunt both passed away from AIDS, and that is due to drug usage. My aunt, who raised me once my mother passed away, as I said before, I am truly, truly grateful for her. She pretty much saved my life, because if it wasn't for her, there's no telling where I would be. But because of it, she has traumas that she probably doesn't even realize she have. She's not a very affectionate person. She's very guarded, very, very guarded. She likes to keep her circle extremely small, and not just with family, but with friends. Like, she's very, very protective. And as I said before, with that, for me, having the bond that I have with my mother, and my mother being so loving and affectionate to me, and then having someone who was dealing with her own traumas not being that way, that then affected me. So traumas can not only just affect you, but you have to think about why it affects you. You have to dig deeper. And for me, it goes all the way back 2 years before I was even born. And it affected our family to the point where there are so many emotional hurt in our family that some of it's probably will never be fixed, because some of them don't even realize why they have it. For me, it's especially after I had my son, it was always important for me to understand why things happen, why I am the way that I am, why I have this hurt or this anger in me. And it's really important, because that's not only affect you, it affects the people around you, the people you want to love.
So, March 8th of 2015, my life changed dramatically. That is the day I lost my brother. His name was Lorenzo. We called him LJ, right? So what was tough for me was literally like the day before he died, he called me, or that night, and I said I'll call him back. I was tired. I called him back. Never got the chance to hear his voice again. But he died in a car accident. He was under the influence of drugs, alcohol, and he hit a pickup truck dead on. So they say he didn't experience any pain. I honestly do believe that. But when I first heard it, like I got a phone call at 5 a.m. It was on a Sunday, and my grandmother called from my mom's phone, and I was like, okay. She was like, yeah, before you come to church, come to the house. And I'm like, why? And she was like, oh, just come. Well, actually, it wasn't 5. It was 8. He died at 5 a.m. She called me around 8. So I'm like, okay, this is weird. So the first thing I did was go to Facebook. And I said, okay, it's no post about LJ or anything. So he's good. First person that popped to my mind. So I was like, well, maybe my mom just having a mental breakdown, because she was taking on a lot of responsibility at that time. So either way, I get to the house and they're like, yeah, my Uncle Turk's there, and he's like, oh yeah, LJ went to go be with the Lord or something. And I was like, what? My mom's shaking and she's crying, and my sister's crying, and my grandmother is looking at me. You could tell she's been crying, and I'm like, huh? And they like, oh yeah, sit down, you know, LJ's gone to be with the Lord. And I'm like, this is my genuine first reaction. I don't know what y'all are talking about, what y'all got going on right now, but I'm going to church. Like, I don't know what y'all talking about. Y'all like crazy and ridiculous. So my grandma's like, no, Lauren, it's true. She shows me the card from the police and has his book bag, right? And I'm like, okay. Grab his book bag. I don't have time for what y'all are talking about. I leave. I'm going to church. Head out. I pick up my friend. I'm calling his friends that I know he will be with, and he didn't answer the phone. I'm calling. He picks up, and I'm like, Roscoe. And he's like, his name's William, but we all call him Roscoe. One day I had to call a lady who had lost her son, and I said, I don't feel like I want to get out of bed today. I just stayed in bed all day. Is that normal?
and she's, you know, Yvette, yeah, that's normal. You're going to go through this. You're going to go, it's okay. And just stay in bed if you feel like you need to stay in bed. It took me 2 months before I could go back to work. 2 months. I just wasn't ready. I didn't want any, I didn't think I could handle the stress of work and the responsibility and grief at the same time. So it took me 2 months to get back to work. So don't rush yourself. Don't push yourself, and do what you need to do. It's normal. It's normal to grieve. It's normal to disassociate yourself, but don't do it long. Don't do it for long, because you need to be around people. People would come to me to visit me. I didn't even know I needed people. I didn't want them, but I was so glad that they came, because it helped me through that particular day. Because it's a minute by minute thing that you go through when you're grieving the loss of a loved one. So I am in grief counseling. I have a therapist that I talk to once a week. I'm getting ready to join a grief share group, because now I'm at the phase and the stage where I can hear what other people have gone through and how they've gotten through it, and that will help bless me. And I think I can share with other people now, which is what I want to do with Ian's life. Is I want to talk to people about this. I want to pull the mask off of this. I don't want his death to be in vain. So I want to talk to kids. I want you to tell me how you feel. Or I want to advise you to go seek help. You know, not to self-medicate, not to isolate. I want to help people get through this. I want to talk to mothers who have been through this, and maybe I can tell them how I'm getting through it, how I'm dealing with it, how, you know, people can't believe I lost my son, and then a couple months later I lost my granddaughter. She passed away. I saw her one day. We saw her one day, giving her Christmas gifts. She sent us a Christmas video. The next day she was gone, had a severe asthma attack. And we're surviving that loss in our family. We are surviving. I'm telling my kids, you know, what to do, guys. You got to do this. You got to do that. You've got to. It's a work. It's a work. You'll be a work in progress for a long time. And I'm not going to give up. I'm going to continue to get counseling for myself, because it's healing. And I'm going to continue to tell people what this is like, because I want you to hear the agony that a mom or, you know, or your loved ones can go through if you decide to do something like this and you end up gone. You know, what's it all for? What is it all for? So, you know, I decided that's what I'm going to do. I'm healing. Every day I'm healing. Before I, you know, even when I'm still in the bed, I'm listening to worship songs. I'm listening to good stuff, good music. I'm not saying you have to listen to gospel music or what, but listen to good music. Something saying something good that can build you up, you know, that can motivate you. You know, stay busy. You know, try not to sit in a corner and dwell on a thought. You know, if I start thinking about Ian, you know, things are quiet and I'm just sitting there at night and I'm thinking about him and I'm missing him, and then, you know, a tear will come down, and automatically I'm switching that to thanking God for Ian's life and for what he meant to me, and for the times we've had and how crazy he was, and all his idiosyncrasies and things like that. You know, I'm switching it. It's a work. You have to work at it to get.
It was a journey, right? It was a journey, and I think the first step to, I guess, getting out of an abusive relationship, right? And this is from my own vantage point, right? This is from my own experiences. I think the first thing is to just like acknowledge like who you are, right? And acknowledge like what it is you want, because there's some things that people resonate with and gravitate to, and it's their comfort zone. So what may be toxic to one person, you know what I mean, may not be, we may see it as toxic, but they may see it as a norm. So just finding and then choosing like, hey, what side, like who am I, you know, like, do I like it? For me, I was just like, I don't want to be a part of that. Like, can we cuss here? I just didn't want it. Like, it wasn't anything that I resonated with. It wasn't anything that was familiar. Like, I didn't grow up seeing, like, my parents argue, but I didn't grow up seeing those things. So, you know, I definitely, it was definitely an experience that I had. I was around my early 20s. And that was my first and last experience with that. And it taught me so much as to choosing how to date, choosing myself, choosing how to relate, and in which ways I relate to people, and knowing that like I'm in control of like what type of relationships that I have, right, and how I have them. And just because, you know, you may be fond of me in a particular way, I don't owe you that same sort of fondness in return. And just like first, just believing in God, like having a foundation, right? Having something to believe in, right? Whatever you believe in, you know. Yeah, so if you have or are in something similar to what I have spoke about, I would say like don't batter yourself. Like don't hurt yourself too, if that makes sense. Like if someone's hurting you, like try to be easy on yourself. Try to talk to someone. Try to reach out to people. There's so many ways. There's so many resources out here. You have your friends. You have your family. If they're, you know, if you want some more private, you have your therapist that you can reach out to. There's support groups. There are anonymous support groups. There hotlines that you can call. You can get involved with so many different things. But like I want to say, like, honor yourself, and that's going to be the first thing. That's where I lack. That's where I allow people to treat me how, let's say, I was being treated in particular times in my life. And like I have this saying that I live by now. It's like you teach people how to treat you. And like I really believe that is true. So when you stand up for yourself and when you figure out like who you are and how you decide to live, I think it'll be easier for another to see exactly how they're going to treat you and honor you and respect you. But like, don't take no shit from nobody. Yeah.
God has already put his hand on everything in every moment of our life before we were even born. So I trust and I know that my trauma has a purpose, and although it doesn't feel good, it's uncomfortable all the time. You know, it's a constant journey. You know, I wrote a book about, you know, the pain that I went through and in hopes of helping somebody else. And really the saying that I have a tattoo that talks about beyond fear is freedom. And so freeing myself from the fear of the trauma and the scars that it left, but now just, you know, the beauty of it. And so if you're going through a traumatic event, whether it's a loss of a loved one, whether it's a devastating breakup, whether it is, you know, losing yourself. I lost myself many a times because I wasn't sure if I was dealing with things the right way. You know, whether even you lost your path with God, you have, you know, lost trust in that faithful relationship because you felt like he left you in your most precious times. He has not. I know that for a fact. Sometimes it seems like God is quiet, but he is just there. You know, he's
the people you want to hold on to, it affects them to the point where you may be pushing people away. You may be sabotaging relationships and you don't even understand why. You may not even really realize why you're doing it or that you're doing it, period. But trauma, hurt, pain, harboring onto it, that's another form of death. Because you're killing yourself slowly. You're killing your relationships. You're killing love that people want to give to you, that you want to give to people. It's very important to realize and to fix it. At least start the process of it. Because as I said before, it's a journey. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. It's going to take time. And again, life is going to come at you. Life is going to still come at you. Life doesn't stop because you're feeling some kind of way.
He's like, yeah. I'm like, hey, was you at LJ last night? He's like, yeah. And I was like, okay. So, was he driving a white car? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, well, okay. So I'm asking him, where were y'all? Was he drinking? And he said, yeah, we had a few beers. Wow, what's up? And so you can hear the panic. And I'm like, yeah, because they at the house and they talking about LJ died last night and he was in the white car. He don't even drive no white car. What are they talking about? And he was like, he let out this scream. And I literally was in the middle of the street screaming to the hot, because I knew at that point that it was true. He got a white rental car. So he was driving a burgundy Buick, but he had this white Chevy Spark that he had just got as a loaner that Friday, and that Sunday he was gone. So it took me a long time. I kind of just like mentally shut everything out. I had just got a new apartment, and my favorite mantra was, I will not go back. I will not go back. Because I had just got out of the abusive relationships, getting on my feet. I'm able to take care of my son. I just moved into my first apartment a week before, and I was like, I will not go back. I will not go back. I will not go back. But I took on a lot of things trying to build my massage business, and then I tried to come out with some t-shirts, a brand called One Time, because that's something he would say, and I was trying to tell people it only takes one time to change your life, so make good decisions. And I was just doing all these things, but I was literally like distracting myself. Distraction. So I didn't have to deal.
I'm not saying I have arrived. No, I have not arrived. I cried myself to sleep last night, as a matter of fact. But I got up this morning and I prayed, and I came here so that I can tell you what it feels like to go through this, and what to do. Stay busy, like I said. You know, teens, talk to your coaches. You know, come on, you got to work at this thing. Everybody doesn't have to take drugs, okay? Stop with this madness, because people don't care. The people that are selling you those drugs, and we have a strong suspicion that the young man that came past looking for Ian, and my husband told him he passed away, and the guy fell to his knees. He was driving that red truck, and there's something about that red truck, I think. And I think he might be the one, you know, that sold Ian those drugs. And I pray to God that when he dropped to his knees, because he was stunned that Ian had passed away, I pray to God that he stopped selling those drugs or taking them. I pray to God that all of Ian's friends will learn from this, from his death. If Ian's life can just touch one person, it's a life worth living. It really is. It's a life worth living. And I'm proud to talk about him. And I'm proud to share this story with you, because I don't want you to go through that. I don't want people in your family to lose you. You know, I don't want you to suffer in silence, not really talk about things that are bothering you, what's going on with you. You know, reach out. You know, reach out and, you know, get some help. And as far as the grief goes, it's going to happen. I mean, I don't know, it might take me a year, it might take me 2 years. But I'm gonna continue to fight, because I have other children to live for. I have grandchildren to live for. I have myself to live for. So, you know, I don't want that. It's not going to end my life, you know. So fight. Just stay in the fight, as far as, you know, with grieving and getting through the death, the trauma, the loss. It's a big loss. What a huge loss.
With his actual death, and I will always tell people when they ask me, how are you doing? I say day by day. That's all I can do. Minute by minute, second by second, day by day. But I remember always constantly feeling so alone. I started having dinner parties every Sunday, and I had like 10 people in my apartment. And I remember looking out the window, and I said, I wish I had someone to talk to. I was so alone, okay? And nobody understood me. I just felt like I was existing, and I had stopped living life. And it was tough. He was my best friend. Like that was it. We were 18 months apart, so I shared all memories and stuff with him. And it's like, now he's not gone, and now he's gone, and to see somebody and to know they're gone, it's like really hard to wrap your mind around. But one thing that gave me peace is the week before he died, that Sunday, he came to church, and he said, like, he got it, and he came to my apartment, and he stood in my apartment, and he said, I'm so proud of you. And he walked around, and he was smiling, and he told me like he was saved. And I said, you saved? I didn't see you do no new members classes at church. He was like, look, I'm saved. I know Jesus as my Lord and Savior. I said, okay. So when he passed away that Sunday, I knew he was good. He stood in my apartment and told me that he was saved. So that in itself helped me with healing, because I know that. I still know it. I believe it. He said it to me, so we good. I immediately put myself in therapy. I didn't have anybody like tell me I needed therapy. I knew I needed therapy because I wasn't going to be able to get through this without it. And prayer. Prayer was a big thing for me during my brother's passing. But it helped that I had already got into the church from, like, you know, being in an abusive situation. So like my faith was already built. It was already strong, and I knew who to lean on. So I didn't completely break, but I was hurting. But I feel like I distracted myself a lot. And it was my 30th birthday. He died when I was 26, going on 27. My 30th birthday, I had came back and it was all this stuff. And I remember I would have periods of depression where I would sit on my sofa and I would just go to work because I had to take care of my child. And my nephew was living with me at the time, but I would come back and I would just sit on the sofa. I wouldn't take him outside. I wouldn't do nothing. I would just watch TV. And I started identifying my triggers. March 8th. Is when he died. March 14th is his funeral. December 1st is his birthday. So the holiday times, I would just get in a funk. Even around my birthday time, I would still get in a funk. So I remember coming back from Punta Cana and just sitting on my sofa for like a week. And I was like, oh, I'm so depressed. I'm so depressed. I'm so depressed in my mind. And God was like, you're not depressed. You're grieving. And I was like, what? Because I was done with church. I was done with everything. I said, God, you're going to have to tell me something and send me a sign to let me know like what I should be doing, because I'm pretty much giving up at this point. I went to church and I went to the altar and I just laid it all there. And my pastor came up and she walked directly to me and she looked at me and she said, you're not depressed. You're grieving. I had never spoke these words to nobody. I lost it. She helped me. And I broke down in her arms at the altar. And that's when I really started the healing process. I had to make up in my mind that I was choosing to live. And that I wasn't going to, around his birthdays and stuff. And I don't do that. He would have been. Or if he was here. Or because that puts you back in a state of depression. Or you have to go through this whole thing of reliving that. Oh, he would have been 30 something, he would have been this, and to me that does not work. So around his time he died, I don't log on to Facebook because I can see, you know, everybody leaving comments. I don't even answer the phone for a lot of people, including my mom. It sounds bad, but in the beginning she was still hurting, so she, you know, crying and stuff. I couldn't do that. I had to separate myself from that. I was choosing to say I had 28 years of his life. He had 28 years, and I'm going to remember the good times. I'm going to remember when he called me ugly, when I cried and called me black and all this other stuff. Like, and we joked and stuff like that. I couldn't stand him. He was like, you're so ugly when you cry. So every time I would cry, could hear him telling me how ugly I was, and I would just laugh. I'm like, I'm gonna choose to laugh. I'm gonna choose around his birthdays and stuff to be happy. I wasn't gonna choose to sit in that anymore. So I decided to get up. I was gonna work out. I was gonna love on my son, and it was just a decision that I had to make. And I would dream about him often. Even in my dreams, it was like I was reliving his death because I would realize he was really gone, and wake up and I would be panicking, crying, and be depressed for days.
So if you know that you're going through some things, if you know that there's something inside of you and you just don't understand why, dig a little deeper. And not just for the people around you, but more so for you. You don't want to live the rest of your life until the day you die with that kind of hurt and anger.
But you can do it though. You can do it. You will live. I was telling my granddaughter's mother, you're gonna live. You're gonna live after this. And she looked up at me and said, am I? And I could now tell her, because I just lost my child. I could speak to her as a mom who just lost her child. You know, already I'm telling people, yeah, I didn't want to live. You know, I didn't want to live. I didn't want to walk out the door. Like, for what? You know, I didn't think I could ever do anything that would be of enjoyment. You know, I went to get my nails done, and I cried the whole time I was there. You know, I'm like, what am I getting my nails done for? My son is dead, you know. And that's how your thinking is, you know. What am I eating for? I didn't eat. My appetite was gone. It was shot. You know, I didn't have any of that. You know, all I did was get up and go to the bathroom and come back because my son had died. And that was tantamount in my life. That's all I thought about. You know, that's all that matters. But look where I am today. I can't get over it. I can't get over where I am today. And I owe it to God. I owe it all to the Lord. So it's hanging there.
And it's no way that I could have made it to this point. You know, right now I still have my own business. I don't offer direct care services, but I do offer clinical services, clinical training services. I do an event annually in recognition and, you know, in remembrance of my brother called Happy for the Holiday. I'm a supervisor in the federal government, and I made supervisor after only 2 years of being in the federal government, which is almost absolutely unheard of. I have a daughter who's amazing, who has her own business. She's a YouTuber. You know, I have 2 beautiful homes. And although these things seem to be materialistic and, you know, just different people's paths, it's something that I achieved. You know, it's something that I did not think that I would be able to achieve. You know, I'm able to travel, you know, internationally, and I never thought, you know, standing in that living room with my father trying to tackle my pregnant aunt and my mother and trying to fight them and running upstairs to go get help and seemingly being pushed away and cussed out as a 5-year-old. I never thought that I would be able to do any of these things. But here I am, talking to you. And so I know you may not think that there's a way out. I know you may think that you're lost, nobody cares, nobody hears you, nobody sees you. That's not true. You're going to have a beautiful ending.
One day he came to me in my dream and I was like, no, I'm not going to acknowledge you because you're dead. And they were like, no, he's here. And this is when we finally could have a conversation. He's like, I'm sorry that I hurt you. It wasn't my fault. I love you. He gave me a kiss and I said, you know what? I love you too. And he finally went away. It was my acceptance. And that happened last year. It was 5 years in. And since then, I'm just like, oh, I'm good. But I had to work through it and just say, he's in a better place. I know he was saved and I believe that he's with God. And I just had to like choose. And every day is still a choice. Today is March 6th. His death date is March 8th. And I'm sitting here being able to talk to you guys without crying or, you know, I loved him and he loved me. And yeah, I just know, I know that relationship was good. I don't have to say I would do something differently or nothing like that. I know he loved me and I know, yeah, so I just choose every day to be happy and choose the good memories. And when I feel myself getting in that depressive state, you have to talk yourself out of it. You really do. And when it's anxiety coming, I have to sit there because anxiety is usually things that is not usually, it's what you make up. So oh, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. So I tell myself, is it happening in this moment? Do you know it to be true? Are you safe? Like, talk, whatever you're struggling with, talk yourself through it because a lot of times it's not true. It's just what we're fixated on. So that helped me. Like, but I'm not gonna, I don't want to be a victim anymore. So I'm choosing to live, especially for my son and for myself. Like, I want to be happy.
Stop crying now. I want you to look over at me.